Okay, so you've taken advantage of the download, and now I'd like to explain to you what you're looking at. So I'd like for you to be looking at the page of diagrams, and you'll see 4 diagrams. On the top of the page, it says 1st, 6th, minor 7th arpeggio as the Aeolian 6th chord with the 4th, 6th major scale. Now, you'll learn everything you need to know about understanding that sentence in the introduction of the book, which is in your download. Basically, what this is a combination of arpeggio, a chord played one note at a time, a representative chord, a chord you probably already know from that arpeggio, and the scale. Now, this whole book is laid out in the key of C and the relative minor A minor. This is an example of that. So the first thing, the very top diagram on the left, is the 1st, 6th, A minor 7th arpeggio. If you look at the diagram, and if you look to the left, you'll see the number 5. That number 5 is the position that you're in. You'll also have that explained in the opening, since position playing is one of the most important organization factors that we use. We're going to be learning everything in position. So that number 5 basically tells you where your first finger goes with no finger stretches. Now, the dots themselves, the notes that your fingers play, you'll see the intervals. The string all the way to your left is string number 6. From left to right, the string numbers are 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So that string number 1 is the vertical line representing the string all the way to the right. So on string number 6, you can readily see that in the 5th position, you're playing the root with your first finger on the 6th string. Thus, the name of the fingering itself. So we call that 1st, 6th, or first finger on the 6th string. The next note to be played will be played with your 4th finger on the 6th string, and that's the minor 3rd. That M is going to represent minor. You'll also see that laid out in the introduction of the book. You'll be able to understand everything on these diagrams. And as it goes through the diagram itself, you'll see the individual intervals of the chord laid out. The first thing you're going to do when learning any fingering is to learn the fingering with the finger numbers. And those you'll see to the right of the position marking, the Roman numeral 5, or to the left of string number 6. You'll see the 1 FS, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 FS. FS stands for finger stretch. So that means that on the 6th string, the first finger plays the root, the 4th finger plays the minor 3rd. On the 5th string, the 3rd finger plays the perfect 5th. On the 4th string, the 1st finger plays the minor 7th, and the 3rd finger plays the root. So forth and so on, until you've moved all the way across the diagram. The next diagram that you see, the top right of the page, is the representative chord. So of course, these notes are notes of the arpeggio, but are meant to be played all at the same time. That's your chord. Of course, the chord, the representative chord, is going to have the same root note as the arpeggio. So that's called the first, sixth, A minor, seventh representative chord. Now, underneath these two diagrams, you'll see the arpeggio and the chord in music notation. Then under that, you have the tablature. So the individual notes of the arpeggio are tabbed out as well. So however you're comfortable, you can look at the diagram, which we recommend. This is a very visual system of learning. And also get to know where the notes are on the staff and do the tab as well. Now, let's talk about the bottom. The bottom two diagrams are scales. The first scale on the left is the fourth, sixth C major diatonic scale. This means that the root note for this scale is underneath the fourth finger on the sixth string. This is a C major scale. So essentially, you're playing on an A minor seventh chord in the key of C. This is the combination that we're studying. So you will learn that scale. In all of these diagrams, you're first to do them with finger numbers. I already talked about that. Then after you've gotten comfortable with the fingerings themselves, then we want you to recite the intervals. And if you can recite them aloud, that's even better. We want you to get to know the sound of each one of these intervals and where it is in the fingering. Okay, so to the right is the all-important superimposition box. This is the combination of everything. But now, instead of the root note being the root note of the scale, it's the root note of the arpeggio. This is called a chord scale, a scale from the root note of the chord. Music is heard from the bottom up. So all of the notes of the scale are heard relative to the root note, which is considered the bottom note. That's what gives a scale its specific sound. So by combining the major scale with a minor chord that comes from that scale, you have in the superimposition box everything that you need to make this sound, the sound of the Aeolian mode. You have the root. Look at the next note, 2 frets up from the root. You'll see that it's in a diamond shape and it's shaded. That 2 is the second. That's because we're now combining the arpeggio with the scale. So our new scale has a root, second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, and root. And this is played out in position, and that's all of the diatonic notes that are available to you if you're playing on an Aeolian chord, any minor seventh chord, any Aeolian chord, since they're obviously movable. Now, if you look at the bottom, you'll see that we have music notation and tab also available for you, depending upon what you're comfortable with. But once again, keep your eyes on the diagram, recite these intervals out loud, learn where these notes are, because we want to be picking and choosing them. So every diatonic chord is mapped out in diagrams, just like this page. There will be 7 different fingerings for everything, for every combination of scale, arpeggio, and representative chord. So there's lots of chords to learn, and scales to learn, and arpeggios to learn, but we're going to learn them in harmonic context. So I invite you to get to work. You'll be amazed. By combining the arpeggio, the scale, and the chord is the most musical way of learning that there is, because you're hearing what Aeolian, in this case, sounds like. You're hearing what the sound of Aeolian is. That's very important because you're making music. You're not just playing a scale that's unrelated to anything else in your mind, or learning an arpeggio fingering that you're practicing sweeping up and down, which is good. I'm not saying don't do that. But in here, you're learning an arpeggio that can be swept up and down, but you're learning the scale that goes with it in every situation. So get busy. Happy learning.